Cup of Nations qualifying series. And the preliminary rounds, usually Nigeria has been exempted and some other top countries have been exempted from the preliminary rounds. The preliminary rounds will take place August 18, between August 18 and 20, and August 1 and 3. The first leg and the second.
July 18.
I beg your pardon. July 18 and 20, and then August 1 to 3, preliminary rounds. First leg and second legs will be played for the teams involved.
For countries like Seychelles,
all those countries, all those little known countries that usually have not made the mark in African football.
No pedigree.
No much pedigree. They will play the preliminary rounds, and by August 3 and 4, we will have an idea of all those things that will have qualified from the preliminary rounds. And then we will go into the main round proper, final round proper. 6 match days will be required. And so September 5 to 6, we are going to be having match day 1. 2014. This is a FIFA free day. Then 4 days after, look at the timing. Almost 4 days after. That means in 1 week we'll play two games. Very hectic.
Very
so
hectic.
If Nigeria, for example,
the Nations Cup is going to be in January.
And the Nations Cup is going to be in January.
Just like maybe 3 to 4 months to the Nations
Cup.
So
you have to
pack that into
a lot of games. September 5 and 6, match day 1. Just a week after, less than a week after, match day 2, September 9 and 10. You have to play match day 2. Then there's a little break of about a month. We go to October 10 and 11, match day 3. And then just 4 days after, match day 4. So it's a case of Nigeria plays the game now, and immediately we are traveling out to play another one. You understand? So October 14 and 15, match day 4. Then there's a little break. November 14 and 15, match day 5. 5 days after, match day 6. Wow.
So it means you have a group of 4 teams. So a group of 4 teams.
Yeah.
That is where the NFF. That's why I said the election. Then I hope the elections will be peaceful. There won't be any rancor. There won't be any taking some of those games. Yeah, distraction, because that's where you plan your itinerary now.
Let's look at this, Dumnodi. Just to follow what you have said, CAF have announced the draw for the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations. Pot 1. You know the way they do it. Teams in pot 1 will not meet each other. You can only draw a team in another pot. We've talked about pot 4. We'll talk about pot 4 later. But pot 1, you have defending champions Nigeria, losing finalists Burkina Faso, you have Cote d'Ivoire, you have Togo, you have Mali, South Africa, Cape Verde, Congo, DR, Zambia, Tunisia, and Ghana, based on the last Nations Cup in South Africa. Pot 2, check out the teams in pot 2. Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Senegal, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Gabon, Uganda, Congo. So you can draw any of those teams.
Yeah.
And then pot 3, check out pot 3. Ethiopia, Benin Republic, Angola, Niger, Zimbabwe, Equatorial Guinea, Mozambique, Malawi, Burundi, Liberia, Sudan. You can
those are tough places to go.
Tough draw.
Tough places to go.
Tough draw.
Especially if you didn't do business in your home leg.
Preliminary rounds, at the end of preliminary rounds, we will now know the teams that will be in pot 4. And the draws will hold March 31st, as we said, in Morocco. So you can see that you can draw, Nigeria, for example, can draw Egypt, Ethiopia, and maybe Seychelles.
I know
and you have to play again. 4 days, you have to play another one.
I hope we do well at the World Cup, because I think our performance at the World Cup is going to inspire some of these players. Will help us go into this game, because you know when you have a dismal outing like what we did in 1998, we know the way we scattered. We scattered. The
team scattered. The players were
withdrawing. So we had issues like that playing qualifier. So I think maybe I'll look at the World Cup and see what will happen for this qualifier, because we have a lot of games in short time. We know league players are going to be moving. European season is still on. Then you look at how many players are you going to be using to prosecute this game. Means you must have a large squad. Within short time, in 3 months, you have a pool of players.
Yeah, your key players may pull out. Some don't want to get injured because the European season is just starting. Some don't want to lose their place.
The good thing is that all those games are on FIFA.
When is Keshi contract ending? That is one question we'll ask again. I don't know, because after the World Cup,
it depends on the World Cup. Unless we renew it.
That's why I said we have to. The World Cup is going to determine a lot. It plays a lot of role. It plays a lot of role to determine whether we are going to do it. We got to concentrate more on the qualifier, because if God forbid, because I know the NFF, the distraction of the World Cup. If they don't do it at the World Cup,
distraction of election, there's probably a new board will be in place at that time.
So we really need to get our the state of the case is going very important. Even some of the backroom staff very important. I hope the fallout of the World Cup will affect our chances at qualifying, because we know some of these things. We are playing some of these countries. They know Nigeria. We play at the Nations Cup, so we are still fresh. A lot of people say we are the African champion. Nobody cares whether you are the African champion or not. They want to play you. looking at the seedings now, you can determine, okay, you want to play teams like Ethiopia. You are going to visit Addis Ababa again. We know the circumstances of this environment. We know how we struggled, even though we came out with a victory. So I think the World Cup is going to play a huge role in determining whether we can do well or we can prosecute this qualifier.
Anyway, the essence of what we're doing, Yemi, is to allow the NFF to plan well.
Yeah.
Know what they are in for in 2014.
Make them aware.
Know that there's no time to keep your hands off and just think that I can back off. World Cup ends immediately. We are into another marathon session. 6 games in about.
Don't wait for situations to force you into a corner.
Start thinking ahead.
Be aware, be proactive. And listening to Nodi, I cast my mind back to 2006 World Cup. The only reason we were not at the World Cup was because most of the away games we didn't do well.
We didn't take them seriously.
We didn't take them seriously.
We didn't even go with the full squad.
Exactly.
Now the Angola story, we have to some players from Rangers who are traveling to Nigeria.
Some players said they got lost in London. I don't want to mention names, but that's where my worry is. So I pray players don't get to pick and choose the matches they'll play. I pray some of those players don't even opt out totally. So it really depends on whether or not we have a large squad.
And of course, it also depends. The teams going to the World Cup have a little disadvantage. The fatigue of preparing for the World Cup and all of that, going to the World Cup. The teams that are not going to the World Cup are fresh, ready to go into all this hectic session to go into it. So there's a lot for us to be worried about and to plan ahead.
Let's even take this chance and take our league as one of those, as a backup, like what Keshi
exactly.
Let's do that. As a backup in case some of these big players come out. We can call up on these guys and to do the job.
All right, so that's it. Please talk to us about it. Let's know what you feel about this very hectic schedule by CAF for the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations. We are the defending champions, so it's going to be out of place somehow if we are not able to go to Morocco to defend the crown we won in South Africa last year. Before we close this segment of the show and bring on Joachim, let's talk about Ruben Gabriel. Dumnodi, the story from Kilmanov, Ruben Gabriel said he wants to leave the club, and on mutual consent, the club and Ruben Gabriel have parted ways.
It's quite unfortunate. I don't know.
Is that a running battle with the club?
Yeah, because remember, sometimes the coach
took onto Twitter.
Ruben Gabriel is not
a top quality player, and he's been injured for a long time. Hardly played a lot of games.
The same circumstances that led to the exit of
Papa Idris.
So I don't know what will happen, because
fantastic player.
We will say one of those players that we are looking
expected a lot from
because of his height, his build. And of course, we were
calling him the Patrick Vieira. It was full of energy, full of running, energetic, but injuries. Can score goals, good in the air.
I hope he bounce back for him, because I don't know where he's moving on from now, because that's just the dangers of the league. League have not started. Where is he going to from here? Because we know some countries where you have league that you can come back quickly, come back group, and then go back again. But here we have not started league. Where is he coming back to now?
Well, I can advise him. Let him come back to Kano Pillars.
Where is he going to play?
CAF Champions League.
Are they registered their players? That's the question we ask ourselves.
Can he still play for Pillars in the CAF Champions League?
If he has a good manager, he could probably go to one of the lesser leagues.
He hasn't played enough in Europe because of the injury.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, before he took this decision, he probably must have thought of the World Cup, must have thought of so many other things. And I feel before taking this decision, he has one of those things in mind, especially if he doesn't get to play his place at the World Cup, he's not
compromised.
So I'm looking at some of those things. I don't think it would be a good idea to come back to Kano Pillars if he's able to get
another club in Europe.
Yes, if he's able to get,
after all,
might not be the mainstream.
After all, those who are the champions of the domestic scene, of the domestic league in the Eagles, are running to Europe.
Exactly.
But how long will they get
between now?
That's what I'm saying.
This is a free window. But how long?
It might even the issue might have been sorted out before this step was taken. I want to think so.
That he knows where it's going next.
I want to think so, because a player of his caliber should not just
be hanging somewhere.
Yeah, waste away.
All right, we wish Ruben Gabriel the best of luck, and we hope that he makes a move forward in his career and is also able to fight for a place, because if you have a fully fit Gabriel Ruben in your team, that's like having 3 players. That's like having it's like having a defender, a midfielder, and a striker at the same time in the team.
Just like Michael Essien in his prime.
In his days. All right. And interestingly, Michael Essien also has been told that he can look elsewhere.
You can go.
So these are trying times, really, for some of these players. Let's talk about coaches this time. Not only players are moving, coaches are also moving. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, baby-faced assassin, has been given the mandate to rescue